Hello friends, welcome to the world of project management and for an overview session on project procurement management process, that is conduct procurements. Motto of this training is to share my experience in preparing for PMP certification and have prepared few slides. Let's quickly move to our agenda for this session that we are going to discuss on what is conduct procurement process and its inputs, tools and techniques and outputs. Let's start. It is the second process in the project procurement management knowledge area, and it is defined as the conduct procurements is the process of obtaining the seller responses, selecting a seller, and awarding a contract. And the main key benefit of this process is that it selects a qualified seller and implements the legal agreement for delivery. Fine. Hope you understood about its definition and the key benefit of this process. Let's move to its ITTOs. In inputs, we have the project management plan, which contains the scope management plan, requirements management plan, communication management plan, risk management plan, procurement management plan, configuration management plan, and cost baseline. And also in the inputs, we have the project documents, which contains the lessons learned register, project schedule, requirements documentation, risk register, and stakeholder register. And also in inputs, we have the procurement documentation, seller proposals, enterprise environmental factors, and organizational process assets. And in tools and techniques, we have expert judgment, advertising, bidder conferences, data analysis technique, which contains the proposal evaluation, and last we have the interpersonal and team skills, which contains the negotiation technique. And in outputs, we have the selected sellers, agreements, change request, project management plan updates, which contains the requirements management plan, quality management plan, communication management plan, risk management plan, procurement management plan, scope baseline, schedule baseline, and cost baseline. And also in outputs, we have the project document updates, which contains the lessons learned register, requirements documentation, requirements traceability matrix, resource calendars, risk registered, stakeholder registered. And also in the outputs, we have the organizational process assets updates. Okay, this is an overview of all the ITTOs, that is inputs, tools and techniques and outputs. Let's discuss more detail about this ITTOs, starting with first inputs. In inputs, first we have the project management plan, which contains the scope management plan, requirements management plan, communication management plan, risk management plan, procurement management plan, configuration management plan, and cost baseline. Let me explain one by one. First, with the scope management plan. In this, the scope management plan describes how the overall scope of work will be managed, that is, including the scope performed by the sellers. Moving to the requirements management plan. This input, the requirements management plan, describes how the requirements will be analyzed, documented, and managed. Moving to communication management plan. This input, the communication management plan, describes how the communications between the buyers and sellers will be conducted. Hope you understood this. Moving to risk management plan. This input, the risk management plan, is a component of the project management plan and describes how the risk management activities will be structured and performed for the project. Moving to procurement management plan. The procurement management plan input contains the activities to be undertaken during the conduct procurement process. Moving to the configuration management plan. This input, the configuration management plan, defines those items that are configurable, those items that require the formal change and control, and the process for controlling the changes to such items. Hope you understood this. Moving to the cost baseline. This input, the cost baseline, includes the budget for the procurement as well as the cost associated with managing the procurement process and the sellers. Hope you understood about this first input. Let's move to the next input. We have the project documents, which contains the lessons learned register, project schedule, requirements documentation, risk registered, and stakeholder registered. Let me explain one by one. First, with lessons learned registered. This input the lessons learned earlier in the project with regards to conducting the procurements can be applied to later phases in the project to improve the efficiency of this process. Hope you understood this lessons learned registered. Moving to the project schedule. This input the project schedule identifies the start and end dates of the project activities that includes the procurement activities. Hope you understood this. Moving to the requirements documentation. This input the requirements documentation may include the technical requirements that the seller is required to satisfy and the requirements with the contractual and legal implications that may include the health, safety, security, performance, environmental, insurance, intellectual property, the rights, the equal employment opportunity, the licenses, the permits, and any non-technical requirements. Hope you understood about this requirements documentation. Moving to the risk register. In this, each approved seller comes with its own unique set of risk depending on the seller organization, the duration of the contract, the external environment, the project delivery method, and the type of contracting the vehicle chosen, and also the final agreed upon the price. All this information is stored in this risk register. Hope you understood this. Moving to the stakeholder register. This input documents all of the details about all the identified stakeholders. Okay, hope you understood about this input. Moving to the next input, that is procurement documentation. The input, the procurement documentation, provides a written record used in reaching the legal agreement and may include the older documents predating the current project. And it also includes the bid documents, procurement statement of work, independent cost estimates, and source selection criteria. Hope you understood about what is procurement documentation input. Moving to the next input, the seller proposals. Mainly the seller proposals prepared in response to a procurement document package. That is that forms the basic information that will be used by an evaluation body to select one or more successful bidders. That is sellers. Hope you understood what is seller proposals. Moving to the next input, we have the enterprise environmental factors, which may include the local laws and regulations, that includes the procurements that may ensure the major procurements involve the local sellers, and these EFs may include the external economic environmental constraints, or it may include the market conditions, the marketplace conditions. It may include the information on relevant past experience with the sellers, that is both good and bad, and may include the prior agreements already in the place, that existing agreements, and it may include the contract management system. So all these details may include in the EFs when we are considering for the project. Hope you understood about these EFs. Let's move to the organizational process assets, which may include the list of preferred sellers that have been pre-qualified, or may it include the organizational policy that influence the selection of a seller, or it may include the specific organization templates or guidelines that will determine the way how the agreements are drafted and built, and it may include the financial policies and procedures regarding the invoicing and payment processes. Okay, fine. Hope you understood about all the inputs of the conduct procurements. Let's move to its tools and techniques. We first start with the first technique, that is expert judgment. As I said in my previous sessions also, expertise should be considered from individuals or groups with some specialized knowledge or training. Should have knowledge in proposal evaluation or the technical or subject matter, or they have some relevant functional areas such as finance, engineering, design, development, supply chain management, etc. And the expertise may have the knowledge on the industry regulatory environments, or the laws, regulations, and compliance requirements, and the negotiation part also. Hope you understood about this expert judgment technique. Moving to the next technique, advertising. What is advertising technique? involved in conducting the procurements. Mainly, this advertising is communicating with the users or potential users of a product, service, or a result. And the existing list of potential sellers often can be expanded by placing the advertisements in general circulation publications such as selected newspapers or in specialized trade publications. So advertising is the main key point and the key technique in conducting the procurements. Moving to the bidder conferences. This technique, bidder conferences, can also called as the contract conferences or the vendor conferences, or it may sometimes called as a pre-bid conferences. These conferences are mainly a part of similar kind of meetings between the buyer and the prospective sellers prior to the proposal submission. Hope you understood what are bidder conferences. Moving to the next technique, we have the data analysis technique, which contains the proposal evaluation. What is proposal evaluation? Mainly, the proposals are evaluated to ensure that they are complete and response in full to the bid documents, procurement statement of work, source selection criteria, and any other documents that went out in the bid package. Hope you understood what a proposal evaluation technique. Moving to the next technique, we have interpersonal and team skills, which contains the negotiation. As explained in my previous sessions also, it is the main key technique in the interpersonal and team skills. Negotiation is a discussion aimed at reaching an agreement. It's a simple definition. And in this process, the procurement negotiation clarifies the structure, rights, and obligations of the parties and other teams of the purchases so that the mutual agreement can be reached prior to signing the contract. Hope you understood what is negotiation with respect to conducting procurements. So here we have completed all the tools and techniques of the conduct procurements process. Let's move to its outputs. In the outputs, first we have the selected sellers. The output, the selected sellers are those who have been judged to be in a competitive range based on the outcome of the proposal or bid evaluation. So this is about the selected sellers. Moving to the next output, we have agreements. What are agreements here? A contract is a mutual binding agreement that obligates the seller to provide the specified products, services, or results. And also, it obligates the buyer to compensate the seller, and also, it represents a legal relationship that is subject to remedy in the courts. So, this is all about the agreements. The major components in an agreement document includes the procurement statement of work are the major deliverables, our schedule, milestones are date by which a schedule is required, or it includes performance reports and pricing and payment terms and inspection, quality and acceptance criteria, and it includes the warranty and future product support, and it includes the incentives and penalties, and it includes the insurances and performance bonds. Hope you understood about this output, the agreements. Let's move to the next output. We have change request. As I said in my previous sessions, for any change request in any process, it may be in the conduct procurements or in any other process of the project management, has to go through the PICC process, that is perform integrated change control process. Hope you understood about this change request. Moving to the next output of conduct procurements, that is we have the project management plan updates, which contains the requirements management plan, quality management plan, communication management plan, risk management plan, procurement management plan, scope baseline, schedule baseline, and the cost baseline. Let me explain one by one. First, with the requirements management plan. In this output, there may be changes to the project requirements due to the changes identified by the sellers. This is about the requirements management plan. Moving to quality management plan. In this, the sellers may offer alternative quality standards or alternative solutions that impact the quality approaches that defined in the quality management plan. Hope you understood. Moving to the communication management plan. In this, as the sellers are hired The communication management plan is updated to incorporate their communications needed and with their approaches. This is about communication management plan. Moving to the risk management plan. In this, each agreement and the seller has its own set of risks that may require updates to the risk management plan. Hope you understood this. Moving to the procurement management plan. In this, the updates may be required depending on the results of the contracting and also with the negotiation processes. This is about the procurement management plan. Moving to the scope baseline. In this, the project WBS and the deliverables documented in the scope baseline are considered when performing the procurement activities. Hope you understood about the scope baseline. Moving to the schedule baseline. In this, if there are any delivery changes created by the sellers that may impact the overall project schedule performance, the baseline schedule may need to be updated and approved to reflect the current expectations. Hope you understood about this schedule baseline. Moving to the last, the cost baseline. In this, the contractor and the materials prices can change frequently during the delivery of the project. These changes can occur because of fluctuating the materials and labor prices created by the external economic environment and needed to be incorporated into the cost baseline. Hope you understood about all these project management plan updates. Let's move to the next output of the conduct procurements, that is project document updates, which contains a lessons learned register, requirements documentation, requirement traceability matrix, resource calendars, risk registered, and stakeholder registered. Let me explain one by one. First, with the lessons learned registered. This output, the lessons learned registered, is updated with the information on challenges encountered while conducting the procurements and how they could have been avoided, as well as the approaches that worked well. This is about the lessons learned registered. Moving to the requirements documentation. The requirements documentation may include the technical requirements that the seller is required to satisfy and the requirements with the contractual and the legal implications that may include health, safety, security, performance, environmental, insurance, etc. As I said in my input section, it includes the licenses, permits, and with any other non-technical requirements. So it includes both the technical requirements and the non-technical requirements. Hope you understood about this requirements documentation. Moving to the requirements traceability matrix. This output, as the sellers are incorporated into the project's plan, the requirements registered and the traceability matrix may change depending on the capabilities of the specified seller. Hope you understood about this requirement traceability matrix. Moving to the resource calendars. In this, the scheduled resource calendars may need to be updated depending on the availabilities of the sellers. This is so simple about the resource calendars. Moving to the risk register. In this, each approved seller comes with its own unique set of risk depending on the seller's organization and the duration of the contract. And also, it includes the external environment, the project delivery method, the type of contracting the vehicle chosen, and the final agreed upon the price, etc. So, this all new information updated in the risk register. Hope you understood about this risk registered output. Moving to the stakeholder register. Mainly this document, the stakeholder registered, documents all the details about the identified stakeholders. Hope you understood about this project document updates output. Moving to the next output, we have the organizational process assets updates, which may include the list of the prospective and the pre-qualified sellers, or may it include the information on the relevant experience with the sellers, that is both good and bad, as I said in the input section. Okay, so hope you understood about all the outputs of the conduct procurement process. So here we have completed all the inputs, tools and techniques and outputs of this process. So this completes our second session on the project procurement management knowledge area, and hope this complete session is easy and understandable for you. Fine. Let's discuss more detail on the next process in the project procurement management knowledge area, that is control procurements, which is the last process in this knowledge area. So kindly provide your feedback on the given email ID if you like this video. Please subscribe my channel. Bye for now. It's your Anil Kumar Dharam.